Don't mess around with the guy in shades, oh no. I can't believe it, we got it made with the girl in shades, I know. What's the other Gen X song that I'm hearing Yaz upstairs at Eric's right now. I don't know if y'all know Yaz upstairs at Eric's. It's one of, I'm waiting for a minute for some peeps to come on. This video is titled Gen X. Have to talk in code a little bit, first of all. You must not be afraid to dream a little bigger, my friend, my dear. I hate that word, dear. All the psyops use dear, by the way. If you get like a weird message from somebody and they're claiming to be someone else and then they call you dear, run. it's like AI psyops. I'm gonna wait just a little bit longer. This is gonna be about Gen X, but it's catching everyone up. And if this live feed, it ever goes down on this channel, because there's some changes coming on tomorrow, which is why I'm doing some of this now, I will be on YouTube, and shortly I'll be announcing something else, another way to get a hold of us. It's all in processing right now. I don't want to say anything right now because I don't want to screw it up. You'll have different ways to find me, okay, to get some information on what's going down besides socials. It's very important. Hi. And my dad has this flag hung right here. I'm gonna real quick on my Generation Xers. We love old cars, right? 1937's been a big part of this. Let me show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all my dad's car real quick. And I'm gonna show you two signs right here. I don't even have to mention, but oops, I don't mean to end. Cancel. I'm gonna flip this. 3. Yeah. All right. And there's the other one. What's that animal called? Yeah. Here's the 1937. I had to pop that trunk. I'm just kind of showing y'all the time machine that's in my garage. It used to be a 1932. Whoop. It used to be a 1932. I'm just waiting a minute, showing y'all some cool stuff. And this is a 1937 Ford. My whole life, everything around me has been about cars and motors and motorcycles. My whole is engines, cars. And there's a reason for that. Now, a lot has come to light. Okay, a blue truck. Is that truck gonna park right? Interesting. My street is a trip and a half. What is on a blue truck? What the fuck? Red and white gas cans. Specifically cubed red and white. This is going to be a strange little live. I don't have it all compacted because it's all basically going down now. All right, I'm going to do what I'm guided to do. I'm in Texas. We just had a major storm that's coming through here. The house was just vibrating for like 3 hours. I don't know if you just watched my last taco, my TikTok, but everything was vibrating. I'm just gonna catch this real quick because this is see what I'm screaming? What are those? Red and white cubes. Red and white cubes. Okay. That's interesting. Now he's going to sit there and play some music. Okay, so let me go back to this. Generation X. First of all, Generation X is special because the Ascended Masters... Hold on. The Ascended Masters... I'm on a live. The Ascended Masters incarnated in 1972. If you'll notice on all these Gen X videos that everyone's following, and if you go look at the years that everybody's saying that they've been born, 72 is going to be the least one that you see. So if you were born in 1972, you came in with the Ascended Masters. In the 60s, the beings that incarnated were basically came in connection with the Ascended Masters, but were more, they had bigger energies, broader, more macro, because they were sent in first, kind of like fertilizer, and getting the environment ready to hold an Ascended Master. Everybody born after 1972 is connected into the Ascended Masters. That there's really two groups of us in the Gen X, because Gen X is mostly indigo children and not necessarily rainbow children or crystal children. And I was one of them, and this is why I got shock activated. This is what sent me on a spiritual journey. I did not go looking for enlightenment. And this is going to be most of your Generation X. So if you know anybody that's doing the Gen X ride right now and is like, okay, like, what are we supposed to be doing? Please send them this video, okay? Because I'm going to be explaining some of this, and this is going to link back to 2001. All right? We all know what happened that year, so I'm not even going to say it. Indigo children, and Generation X was trained. We had the highlights. We were literally trained to shift. We were trained because we were the humans, and the humans are the only ones that can really change anything down here. The way that they have been able to change our realm was through the humans. That's why the different mind control, that's why the body control, that's why the avatars, that's why the robotics, that's why all of that was entwined with DNA from the Gen Xers. Now, here, when I say Ascended Masters, I mean, and what I'm telling you is it's the Ascended Masters 4 end of days. We all incarnated in the late 60s and the 70s because we already knew this was going to happen. What's happening right now? What's happening right now, where we see the computer systems taking over consciousness, where everybody's gotten fucking stupid, like... Everything's run on an automated circuit. Like, we always knew that, and when we incarnated back in, so whenever you came into the body whenever you chose the family that you're in now, you knew that. You knew that that was going to happen. What's happening right now? When I say the Ascended Masters, and when I even talk to you guys about what they did to me in 1983 at 11 years old, putting hypo chamber, dropping me 25 feet below sea level, and this was the U.S. Air Force that did this, okay? So this was the U.S. Air Force that put me in the chamber and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's because Generation X DNA came in with technology in it. Now, this is really important for everyone to understand. This little piece right here. This little piece right here. So basically, all of us in the Ascended Masters in 1972 came in with the infrastructure. We came in with the framework in order to the technology to run the systems, kind of like the hardware of it all. Your DNA is technology. The organic tech that everybody is saying, oh my gosh, they have this, or it's not a big computer somewhere. It's the human race. It's the human race connected into planetary systems of the cosmos. And basically you can think of the entire planetary system as one big computer. And I'm talking about the planets, Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus. Now, we've learned all this by cleaning this. This isn't something that we just woke up knowing one day. That is the organic tech. The organic tech is the human race inside a matrix grid system, inside an after-death grid system that we would call the United States of America. It flipped after 2001. It was only the United States of America. We just woke up from a 23-year dream. Okay? Our DNA, as soon as we got here, when did the first VCR, we got off 8-track, then it was tapes, then it was CDs, all what you call technology, and in the beginning stages, it was all inside of our DNA, and when we come into a lower dimension, it starts printing outside of us, because what we've learned, and this is with my crew walking through the journey and everything else. Let me give you an example. You get a group of people together, and you get 5 people together, and you want to build a company. Okay, this is a good example. You get 5 people together and you want to build a company, and you know what everything's, you have all that, and you're like, man, if we just had 10, some money, and we had a web designer, then we'd set up this internal system that would allow us to automate it. Okay. And so you have 5 people there, and you're like, okay, if we had this computer system, then all the billing would go to Joyce. She'd have to approve all of the billing and every single payment that goes out, and all the support calls would go to Bill. Interesting names coming in. And all of the R&D or tech support will go to, I'm hearing, Josh. And so you get in this group. You don't have the tech. You're like, okay, this is what this person's gonna do. This is what this person's gonna do. This is what this person's gonna do. And if we had this technology that would like send them an email, every single time an invoice came in, or every single time a support call came in, which is what the basic Visual Basic systems that were all built in the early 2000s and in the 90s. It was all built on Visual Basic applications, which was running on basically like a Microsoft Flip infrastructure, because it wasn't necessarily Microsoft at the time, but Visual Basic, Visual C++. If you know anything about technology, these are older applications, and everyone was built specifically for certain departments, like what I'm talking about right now. It was like if you had a Visual Basic application, like Exxon, they had a shit ton of them. And every single department, they were building exactly what I'm telling you right now. It wasn't that it was going on the web and it was being sold as a monthly subscription or anything like that. It was hard coded into the different departments. And in the late 90s and early 2000s, this is what everybody was spending gazillions of dollars on, like so much money on building these applications, not one that can be put on the website and then you use it and everybody else can use it to do their accounting and blah 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 blah. No, it was hard coded into the company, into the system. What I'm telling you, and this is what we learned, and we learned this about 2 years ago in a fluke, because what I just gave you an example for an analogy is what happened. We were all on the phone. We were like, okay, this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Well, in pure consciousness, what you just did was set up your system. And so found is that when we got off that call, all the billing stuff was going to whoever, Betty. Now I'm hearing Betty. I don't know who I called her earlier. Josh was getting all the support calls. I was getting all the creative ideas because I was kind of in charge of link, and it was the support calls. I was getting all the creative ideas because all we needed to do was come together with the group that was conscious, not unconscious. This is why you need to clean your energy and get conscious. This is what Generation X, the majority, is now gonna go through and see. There was a group of us that had to get conscious in order to activate the pure organic tech within inside of our DNA in order to hook into a planetary system, not a Microsoft system, not an Oracle system, not, okay? So what I'm telling you is that whenever you're conscious and when you're working in groups, then this is what you need to get together and do. You need to get together and define what each person, and just by stating it, just by everybody that's conscious in the group knowing that that's what everyone's going to be doing. Okay. That's what I mean by your DNA is the technology. You hear that? It's still going. Man, this thunder is crazy. We always had that. Generation X always had this internal communication. And our parents were completely programmed. This is why we raised ourselves. This is why this coddling that everyone does with the youngsters drives us nuts. This is even our parents that totally ignored the crap out of us with their grandchildren are like helicopter parents. Like it because they were completely programmed. Generation X wasn't. It's and it's almost, it's not even almost. Now that and this is linked into Bellatrix and Orion codes. Orion is linked into the O blood race, and that now is more than 85% of the planet is O blood. This is why Rh negatives are dwindling. This is why, but that's okay, because we were always set to basically infiltrate the O blood in order to turn on the whole entire human race into this organic system. We weren't ever meant to just hold it by ourselves. That happened in 2001. That's why it was such a big deal. If I want everyone to go back and think about 2001, and then I want you to write down what happened 2002, 2003. How did your world completely change? Who came in it? Because I guarantee you, every single one of you, like us, had a handler enter your world in 2002. A handler or a karmic. Now, Generation X has two settings, and we always had two settings. This is why most of us and all the youngsters are like, like, you just woke them up. Like, really, they are terrified. They are. They are, because innately they know their world is going to change outside of whatever the F-balls is running right now, which all of us know is on a decline. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. It ain't going to get any better, because the energy and the system is going to break down. It can't hold all the data. It literally can't hold the data. In my, from full consciousness of being a time traveler, if you will, but really it's just my interdimensional DNA, because I'm an AB negative. I don't know what I am now, but I was an AB negative. We always had two settings. We had the setting that we came in at as a group, because we do incarnate as a group. Everything's on a 10-year count. Even when what you call the elite, which now would not be the elite, they'd just be the ones that were connected into the biggest power sources as far as organizations and magic. Because guess what, Generation X, it blew my Cocker Spaniel in my mind too, but everything down here was run by magic. That shit is real as hell. It's so real that you have to literally be trained to pick it up. That this is how crazy, I almost fell in the shower yesterday. There's another little piece of this, because anyway, I'm jumping ahead. We always had two settings, because we had the tech in our field. In 1991, this shift that's happening now could have taken place if this was the fifth time in our 50 years that we could make this leap out of a tech-run simulation. I'm not sure before 1990, but I know for sure 1991 was linking into the year 1919, and 1991 was a shift count. And things did shift. We missed it because we weren't conscious. Plus, now we know it just all had to play out to the bitter end. Like it wouldn't have shifted all the way up to where it is now, because every single shift count that we missed, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, because the whatevers were planning everything 10 years in advance. All of their timelines are always 10 years in advance. Always. 1991, 2000. In the year 2000, we did have a Mayan flip. It did happen. What that meant was we flipped the whole realm, almost like a shish kebab, or even like a pig on a stick that you're roasting. The meridian in the simulation, because it wasn't a planet, it was a simulation. So it was basically like the equator, okay? The equator in the realm flipped, just like you're spinning a pig on a steak. The energy and everything flipped upside down. Also, just like an ant farm. It happens just like an ant farm, because in a simulation, it's like and an hourglass, and that you flip upside down like Libra, where it gets bottom heavy, and then it's gonna have to adjust in order to flip. That did happen in the year 2000, but all the Y2K stuff that was done in the computer systems, and billions of dollars spent by the companies that I just put up here in order to control it to where it still flipped, okay? Now, if the Y2K and all the technology stuff wouldn't have been done in order to mess with it, let's just say that, when it flipped, it would have been more obvious, because everything would have flipped upside down, because the human energy inside that bubble had gotten to a point to where the bottom was so heavy, and all the cosmos and the giant technology machine of the planets was all lined up. So when it flipped, what happened was the basic perception was what was programmed in the Y2K. So if you've got a bubble from like here to here, let's say, and then you've got the Y2K technology that everything was already kind of running off of, because remember what I told you, like our DNA was being run off the technology, whether you were in part of it or not, because they always knew our DNA was the tech. They were actually siphoning the tech out of our DNA. And so basically building the technology on the outside of us instead of building up that technology on the inside of us. And that's what Y2K was. So whenever in 2000 it flipped, we were like in the middle. So in what they had reprogrammed, and that's why they switched Y to K. Okay? So whenever it flipped, it wasn't as noticeable, because we, as a human race, especially in the United States of America, were already kind of programmed in there. So it's like our feet all of a sudden were on the ceiling of a parallel, but we didn't even realize it, because of the mass programming that had already taken place for the shift. Okay. It also doesn't shift all at once. The realm shifts, the energy shifts all at once, but then each group of beings that in the blood are gonna in each bloodline, if you will, is gonna fill up and flip at different times. So because it doesn't just happen all at once, it's a massive energy shift. So each one of us was then, each groups of us were then flipping into it in like variables, so that it wasn't as noticeable to all of us. And this is why 2001 happened. Last night, now, first of all, yesterday, right now we have 5 planets in Taurus. Okay, we have 5 planets in Taurus. So everything going on down here on the planet right now, all the weather, everything, is in order to realign a natural human system, not governed and ran by external technology. Because it was never, that's it, and it won't hold. If we wouldn't have been able to do what we did and pull off what we did as far as a collective spiritual community the past 7 years, in 2038, SAS programming blew. SAS is 64-bit encryption, and this is that 64 DNA keys. Bullshit. It's 32. SAS programming is all built into everything. It's a 64-bit encryption, and it has to do with DNA. And so basically what I'm saying is that by 2038, if we wouldn't have taken back control of the technology within the DNA, doing it all internally the way we did when we were children as Generation X, then what happened in 2038 is that all the Unix boxes blew and everybody was in a computer system. So everything blew up. Everybody lost their mind, and it blew up. And since in this future timeline that we basically came from, because a lot of us, and especially your ascended masters that came in 1972, always knew that this is what we were going to get to, even in 1972, even in 1973 as a child, because it is what happened in what you'd call the future. 2038 blew up. Everybody was in a computer system, so it was like everybody went Wreck-It Ralph. And there was no, I mean, at least Wreck-It Ralph was conscious. And so he could get from one video game to the other. In the future timelines that we were back in order to make sure it didn't happen, the planet or the realm lost all gravity, and the whole area, because wherever the humans are is what we call Earth, blew out into an orbit with Mars and Jupiter. Now, this is all coming up right now because we're about to hit a cazimi, and a cazimi is, and we just had one, the sun went over Uranus, and that's what a cazimi is, whenever the sun lands on top of a planet. So we just had sun on top of Uranus. Now, by tomorrow, I think, the sun is going to be in a cazimi with Jupiter in Andromeda. So in a galactic portal is where the sun and Jupiter are going to form a cazimi. Jupiter is in like a computer system. If you were thinking about a video game, because Jupiter's the tabernacle, it literally has the same codes as the tabernacle. And in a video game, Jupiter would be like, I don't play video games, so let's just say The Matrix is a video game. The movie The Matrix is a video game. Then Jupiter would form all of the different halls, would be all where you're walking around inside the video game. It'd be, this is a room, here's where your storage facility is, here's where your tools are, all that stuff, okay? That's basically what Jupiter holds for mass collectives to experience. But what Jupiter does is kind of hold a bubble around each DNA count, so that the group of us that holds that frequency, it mirrors out to it in order to experience it, basically, so that you can experience yourself in a group. And so this is even going back to all of the alchemy of the Bible and carrying around the Ark of the Covenant and the people walking around in a circle for 40 years, and all of that was the building of, if you will, a Jupiter tabernacle bubble for that DNA count in order to experience the physical realm, which is why we had 5 different parallels, because we had 5 different groups of beings. A more Pleiadian DNA is going to have a different experience. A more Orion DNA is going to have a different experience. That's what Jupiter does. Well, now there's basically 3. Now at this point, at this very minute, there's 3. Not 5, and it's no longer tuned to Orion, just Orion beings, just Pleiadian beings. It's more that it's different wheel settings, because you're coming out of the wheel as your etheric body expands with the group. And I don't want to get into that right now, but I'm just you're not, because it's not going to be one specific, like Orion beings in Jupiter ended up making Beltages, ended up making Bellatrix, for instance. Pleiadian beings ended up making Andromeda, ended up making Mercury even, Chiron even. now that planetary system has come undone. Everybody's elevating into one purified DNA strand. It's happening internally. This is where the Christ thing comes in, because it's all about your body and getting those connections back into your body in order to be able to hold a cosmic reality. So as the human race is like jiffy popped, because it's really like we're over a stove and all the little popcorns are popping, and so the aluminum foil is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We're in that stage right now. It can't be done overnight. It can't even be done in a year. It compounds every year from a mass awakening. So we just turned Generation X on today. It'll really be 3 years before we see a full effect of it. But immediately it starts changing everything, and it continues to change everything as Generation X is downloading, understanding what's going on, changing the way that they do things in the simulation. This is where everybody, the insurance is going to change, the way we build houses is going to change, the way banking is done is going to change. Like all of those things is what Generation X always had the codes for on this new setting. So for Generation X, it's some of it's going to be spiritual, because it is a spiritual experience, but it's not going to be necessarily what those of us who did this the past 7 years had to deal with ancient Egypt and AB negative and freaking avatars and technology, and there's pieces of that. Each being's going to get the pieces that they need, basically, of the spiritual journey in order for them to understand how to energetically shift their daily routines as a mass group. So the more that shift is happening over the next 3 years, then it's inside the wheel, because everybody's starting to clear out, and eventually you're going to exit the matrix, you're going to exit the wheel, okay? But it's going to take a little bit for all of that to build up, to move everyone into positions to work in consciousness. And those are the two settings that Generation X always had, and because really it's only two settings, and then the being is making the moves in order to change the setting and change the reality in a new energetic. But Generation X always had its own consciousness connected to everyone else working in that DNA strand to do it without technology. We operated and did everything down here as a unit without technology. Brought in technology. Generation X did that. But we know what it's like to do it without the tech. But the understanding of the technology, and the understanding that things can be coded, and the other thing, understanding that things can be programmed, all of that was necessary for the human race to understand, so that you understand your body can be programmed. You can program your body. Somebody was programming your body. Everything was in a giant infrastructure system. Your banks, the grid networks, your street names, how everything's laid out is one big freaking motherboard computer system down here in the United States of America. All that happened was all these other countries built in their interfaces and connections on top of a United States of America simulation. And then they were running it from their post, not from down here, but all off the United States of America energy currents on Generation X. You following me? Well, Gen Z and all of you are going to have to make more vast changes. Gen Z doesn't know what it's like to be without technology. Gen Z and the millennials will be changing as Generation X changes, but y'all haven't been here 50 years, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Like you can't just back up 50 years of or 20 years of experience because you don't have it. It's not that one's better than the other. In fact, the millennials and the Gen Zs were baby boomers and Generation Xers that were taken out in a different dimension. So, like, this is, y'all are gonna flip a lot quicker. Gen Z and millennials, you're gonna have more spiritual, what's considered spiritual, kind of like the past life stuff that the past 7 years, all of us had to go like back to Egypt. We had to go, all this past life stuff. Most of it is erased. It's not even there anymore because it's changed. There is no time. So for most of the millennials and Gen Z, realize, especially millennials, realize that you have a parallel version of you walking around that was taken out like in the 60s or 50s or something like that. Especially everyone born in 1983. Oh my God. 1983 and 1986. Like, what you need to do is command for any being that's walking around in a parallel reality connected to you to intertwine with you.